Chapter 4266. Most importantly, all three of them, including Bailey Weiran, had demon cores that were above the 9th rank of Demon Master. In comparison, her own cultivation was actually the weakest among them. Bailey Weiran looked at her deeply when he heard the word, "Congratulations," but his eyes were filled with disappointment. Mu Yen asked in surprise, "Brother Bailey, you don't want to be the princess's son-in-law?" Bailey Weiran opened his mouth, and after a while, he said softly, "I don't want to." He was waiting for the youth to ask him why he didn't want to. However, Mu Yen just nodded thoughtfully, then found an empty seat and sat down. Although he felt very apologetic towards the three young demons sitting here, he still felt very apologetic. But she didn't know that she was the demon princess before. Now that she had found out, she would definitely find a way to eliminate these three Fuma candidates. She thought that Bailey Weiran had helped her several times, and it wasn't good to break his dream. But since Bailey Weiran didn't want to marry the princess, that was great. Bailey Weiran couldn't help but smile bitterly when he saw the youth's indifference. He slowly walked to the seat next to Mu Yen and sat down. He said gently, "Liangchen, where have you been these days? I searched all the inns in the Demon Imperial City, but I couldn't find any trace of you." Mu Yen retracted her gaze from afar. She had been searching for the disciples of the Xiao Yao sect. After returning to the Demon Imperial Palace, many things happened, so she didn't have time to go to Tianguang ruins. But Mu Yen believed that as long as her disciples saw the summons she left in Tianguang ruins, they would find a way to rush over. But what she didn't expect was that the Heavenly Charm Palace, which seemed to be endless, was actually very vast. Moreover, the dance of the succubi was releasing smoke in the air. So much so that she could only barely see the faces of a few cultivators sitting nearby. Hearing Bailey Weiran's question, Mu Yen was silent for a moment. She couldn't say that she had been living in the Demon Imperial Palace all this time, could she? Just as she was thinking about how to make up an excuse, her elbow was suddenly hit, and a few drops of wine splashed on her face. Sorry." A gentle male voice sounded apologetic. "Are you okay?" Mu Yen looked up and saw a young man standing in front of her. Bailey Weiran's appearance was as gentle as jade, and he was handsome and outstanding. However, the man in front of him was clearly better than Bailey Weiran. Moreover, no matter how elegant the demons were, there was still some evilness in their bones. However, this young man's countenance and actions were filled with elegance and gentleness from head to toe. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that a gentleman was like jade. However, Mu Yen was only surprised for a moment before his expression returned to normal. He couldn't even raise his surprise by 2 points. He was really used to seeing little Uncle Master's looks. Compared to young Master Yun Xiao, who was once popular in the cultivation continent, who was like a jade, a gentleman unparalleled in the world, the other young masters seemed to have become a foil and were completely incomparable. On the contrary, the young man looked at Mu Yen with a trace of amazement and absent-mindedness. However, it only lasted for an instant before it returned to normal. He smiled warmly and said, "I'm Han Jiaming of the Lower Polar Domain's Han family. May I know which family you're from?" After Han Jiaming said this, he looked around as if he had just realized what kind of place he was in. He showed a slightly surprised expression. "Could it be that you're one of the candidates selected by the demons to be the princess's son-in-law?" Chapter 4267. Mu Yen raised her eyebrows and told him her name. "Yi Liangchen." Han Jiaming was startled and then showed a surprised expression. "Yi Liangchen, the one who combined the 3 lists in Tianguang ruins?" Before Mu Yen could speak, Bailey Weiran sneered and said sarcastically, "Han Jiaming, the young master of the Han family and one of the 4 young masters of the Xiuxin continent, would also pay attention to a mere list in Tianguang ruins?" For some reason, Bailey Weiran didn't like this spirit cultivator who suddenly came to talk to Yi Liangchen. Han Jiaming didn't get angry after being rebuked. He just smiled and said, "If I'm not wrong, you should also be one of the candidates for the princess husband, the final winner of heaven-reaching city, Bailey Weiran, right? The Bailey family has always been full of life in the demon clan. Brother Bailey has been talented since young and is the leader of the new generation of the demon clan. I've heard a lot about you." Bailey Weiran snorted and didn't answer him. Mu Yen, on the other hand, looked at Han Jiaming thoughtfully. Han Jiaming raised the wine cup that was already 1/3 full and shook it in front of Yi Liangchen and Bailey Weiran. He said in a gentle voice, "I hope you two will be lenient in the marriage contest at Tianmei banquet." After saying that, he left with a smile. However, as soon as he turned around, the gentle smile on Han Jiaming's face disappeared completely. His eyes were burning with hatred and the desire to plunder. "Liangchen, I heard that the master of the Han family and Shi Yanfei, the daughter of the Yuya Pavilion, have long been in love." Bailey Weiran wanted to say something but stopped on second thought. Mu Yan's mind was a little slow. She said, "Oh really? But what did it have to do with her?" She just wanted to walk around the hall and see if there were any traces of her fellow disciples. However, when Mu Yan was about to get up, she heard a rough male voice not far away. "Demon Lord, we didn't come all the way to the hidden abyss to attend a banquet. I heard that the demon clan doesn't like to beat around the bush. Then I'll just say it. We came to the heavenly enchantment banquet because we want to marry the demon race's princess. We want to form a marriage alliance with the demon race. We've already drunk 3 rounds of wine, but we haven't even seen the princess." The noisy Tianmei palace suddenly quieted down. Only the sound of stringed instruments lingered in his ears. Everyone's eyes were subconsciously focused on the person who spoke. The son of the Seven-String sect, Hu Yuanbai. The Seven-String sect was located within the sphere of influence of the Netherworld region and was a famous first-rate sect. As the son of the sect master, Hu Yuanbai naturally possessed extremely good resources since a young age, and his current cultivation had even attained the peak of the mysterious immortal realm. But just by looking at his appearance, thick eyebrows, big eyes, square face, short and fat figure, there was really nothing to write home about. Someone couldn't help but chuckle. With this appearance, he has the nerve to ask for the demon princess hand in marriage. Someone, King, Yen, someone, families, Yen, sect, someone, Yen, Shu, be careful with your words. Right now, the Seven-String sect's influence in the nether realm is like the sun in the sky. The master of the Yen is Yen Ji. Now that the Seven Flux sect has crossed over to the nether realm and said that they want to marry the devil race's princess, isn't that a slap to the nether realm's face? You don't know, but I heard that the nether realm is about to collapse. Chapter 4268. Rumor has it that domain master Yin Wuji suffered chi deviation in his cultivation and no one knows if he's dead or alive. The nether region is in a mess, and the Seven-String sect is so eager to form a marriage alliance with the demon race. Is it because they want to replace him? Hearing the conversation of a table not too far away, Mu Yen stares blankly. The nether realm was in chaos? Yin Wuji suffered chi deviation? An immortal reverend shouldn't die so easily, right? The corners of Mayan's mouth curled up into a cold smile. She was waiting for the day when she would personally slaughter that old thing Yin Wuji and avenge youngest martial uncle. Hu Yuanbai paid no attention to the discussions of the people around him. His face was filled with battle intent and determination as he continued to speak. "Your Majesty, you invited so many spirit cultivators to the heavenly enchantment banquet and said that you can help us marry the princess. Are you trying to trick us?" As soon as he finished speaking, the curtain of water dissipated without a trace. On the throne, the black-robed Jun Shirtian appeared in front of everyone. This man had an incredibly handsome appearance. However, like the Polar Domain's sovereign emperor, no matter how beautiful he was, not many people dared to look him in the eye. Because before one could take a closer look, one would already be suffocated by that powerful pressure that seemed like it could topple mountains and overturn the seas. When did I ever say that I wanted you to attend the heavenly enchantment banquet to marry my daughter? What I'm saying is that all of you who have come to participate in the heavenly enchantment banquet are for my daughter to choose from. Everyone, the entire place fell silent, and all the spirit cultivators had ugly expressions on their faces. Although this was the truth, there was no need for the demon lord to say it out loud, right? What did he mean by, "All of you who came to the heavenly enchantment banquet are here for my daughter to choose from"? They were all the elite disciples of their respective families. How many female cultivators chased after them? Did they think they were cabbages or carrots? Choose at will? Didn't they want face? Of course, indignation was indignation. In the territory of the devil race, even someone as reckless as Han Weijiang did not dare to make a ruckus at will. However, it wasn't as if there weren't any idiots present who didn't have brains. When Hu Yuanbai heard Jun Shirtyan's words, the arrogance on his face immediately turned into anger. Demon Lord, don't go overboard. I am the son of the Seven Flux sect master, the future leader of the Seven Flux sect. As for your daughter, even if she's a princess, she's just an engaged woman. Her reputation has long been tarnished. This young master is willing to marry her, it's her? The arrogant voice stopped abruptly. The anger on Hu Yuanbai's face instantly turned to fear. His body was also lifted high into the air by an invisible hand. The demon held a cup of wine in his hand. As he drank, he said casually, "You don't want your tongue anymore. I can cut it off for you." Ah! Hu Yuanbai let out a miserable scream. Blood immediately spurted out of his mouth. A short tongue fell from the air to the ground, and it even twitched slightly. Hu Yuanbai struggled with all his might in the air, moaning and groaning, a pained and terrified expression on his face. Only now did the elders and disciples of the Seven Flux sect react. Demon Lord, what are you doing? We came to the heavenly enchantment banquet with the intention of befriending the demon race. The demon race's tradition states that no guests are to be harmed during the heavenly enchantment banquet. Does the demon lord want to break the agreement? Min Wei sneered. Is your Seven Flux sect here to participate in the heavenly enchantment banquet, or are you here to criticize our princess? What do you think a mere Seven Flux sect is? You slandered the princess in my hidden abyss, and you still want to escape unscathed? Do you think our demon race is easy to bully? Chapter 4269. Anyone who insults the princess will be killed. Heavenly Enchantment Palace was instantly filled with earth-shattering shouts. Kill, kill, kill. Berserk devil chi surged violently, as if it would rush over and tear them to shreds in the next moment. Everyone from the Seven Flux sect turned pale with fright, their legs trembling. The elder leading the group was also ashen, and he circulated his immortal chi with all his might to prevent his voice from trembling. Demon Venerable, please forgive us. It was our Seven Flux sect's disciple who spoke without thinking and offended the princess. I apologize to the princess on behalf of my martial nephew. But martial nephew Yuanbai did not mean it. I hope Demon Venerable can be magnanimous and spare his life. After all, today is the heavenly enchantment banquet, the princess wedding day. It is not suitable to kill. Jun Shirtian narrowed his eyes, and his gaze swept over his precious daughter who was sitting below. In the end, he was moved by the last sentence. He coldly snorted and directly threw Hu Yuanbai onto the Seven Flux sect's table. The delicacies on the table splashed all over his body, mixing with his blood and sweat. When he got up again, he no longer had his previous high-spirited appearance and looked like a beggar in a sorry state. Elder Min Wei slowly said, "In the future, don't send this kind of trash to our princess's door, lest it dirties her eyes." The Seven Flux sect's people were all filled with anger, but they did not dare to say anything. They could only silently help their young sect master to settle the matter. But someone in the crowd calmly said, "Your Majesty Demon Venerable, although young sect master whose words were unpleasant to hear, they more or less spoke our hearts. I have no intention of offending the princess. On the contrary, I have admired her for a long time. I came to participate in the heavenly enchantment banquet in hopes of being chosen by the princess and become one of her son-in-law. But now, the competition has not started, and the princess is nowhere to be seen. I have no place to put my feelings. I wonder if your Majesty Demon Venerable can tell me why the selection for marriage has not started? Why is the princess nowhere to be seen?" Just as that person finished speaking, another person immediately said, "Patriarch C is right. Whether we are here to marry the princess or to let the princess choose us, at least half of us are here for the princess. But now, I can't even see the princess. How can this be justified?" Or could it be that His Majesty had already decided on the candidate of the Emperor's son-in-law from the beginning, and were just here to serve as foils? As soon as he said that, the spirit cultivators who were intimidated by June Shirtion immediately became lively again. So, who is His Majesty's son-in-law? It can't be the Polar Domain's sovereign lord, right? But His Majesty didn't come at all. I already said that the Extreme Domain's sovereign lord wouldn't attend any heavenly enchantment banquet at all. What kind of status did the Empyrean Emperor have? If he wanted any woman in the world, which one couldn't he marry? Why would he want a woman who was already engaged? Even if this woman is a demon princess. Back then, I really believed that the Emperor accepted the demon race's invitation to marry the demon race's princess. It turns out that all of this was just the demon race's imagination. Thinking about it, the Polar Domain's sovereign lord is now publicly recognized as the #1 person in the Xiuxian continent, the only immortal emperor in the world. No matter how powerful the demon venerable is, could it be that he can compare to the emperor? The Polar Domain doesn't even need a marriage alliance to be able to dominate the Xiuxian continent. Why would he rush to marry a filthy demon princess? Chapter 4270. Oh right, there's something you don't know, right? The demon race had sent over the marriage certificate several times, wanting to form a marriage alliance with the Polar Domain, but they were mercilessly rejected. In the end, they had no choice but to settle for the next best thing, and chose the son of the Netherworld Domain Lord. Do you think that the Emperor will turn around and marry a woman that he didn't want in the past? The whispers of the spirit cultivators were not loud, but it still reached everyone's ears. June Shirtion's complexion had already turned from ice-cold to ashen. The coldness and killing intent in his eyes seemed to condense into a substance, gushing out. Regardless of whether it was the demon race in the venue or the spectator stand, all of them were filled with righteous indignation. They wished they could immediately rush over and tear those spirit cultivators who slandered their princess to shreds. The first spirit cultivator to speak, feeling the tense atmosphere, could not help but curl his lips. His face revealed a mocking expression. What is the meaning of all the devil cultivators showing such murderous expressions? Did we slander the princess? Isn't what everyone said the truth? Just because we spoke the truth, the demon lord allowed his subordinates to hurt people? So the heavenly enchantment banquet that has been passed down for tens of thousands of years is actually such a tyrannical way of speaking, not allowing anyone to raise a different opinion. Then why is the demon lord still choosing a son-in-law? It would be better to kill all of us and leave those yes-men, trash that only knows how to flatter. This way, the princess might be satisfied. The man slowly raised his chin and said coldly, "Perhaps there are such cowards in the heavenly enchantment palace, but I, Si Tiancheng, am definitely not one of them. If the demon lord thinks that I deserve to die, then why don't you kill me now? I would rather die than to lose my dignity as a spirit cultivator in the enemy's territory." The crowd immediately burst into cheers. That's right, if the demon lord has the ability, then kill us. Then from now on, the heavenly enchantment banquet will become a joke. Demon lord, we are only asking the princess to come out and let us meet. This request is not too much, right? The few elders of the demon race looked at June Shirtion with unsightly expressions. Meeting June Shirtion's cold gaze, they shrunk their necks and turned to look at Min Wei. The heavenly enchantment banquet is one of the most sacred ceremonies of the demon race. Even the demon lords could not easily break its rules. If the demon lord really went on a killing spree at the heavenly enchantment banquet, then the demon race and the spirit cultivators would fall into a state of endless bloodshed. Although 9 out of 10 demons hated spirit cultivators, it was clearly not the time to start a war. Elder Wu Zhuang coughed lightly and said, "Min Wei, the enchantment banquet is ultimately a matchmaking banquet for the princess. I think it's better to let the princess meet these spirit cultivators." Yeah. Another elder said, "It's fine if we couldn't find the princess before, but now that we've found her, why do we need to hide it? Even if her highness is not good-looking, would these spirit cultivators dare to look down on her?" Min Wei, he also wanted the princess to come out. But the problem is that her royal highness is sitting below, and she is one of the candidates for the princess's son-in-law. Can you believe that? Min Wei massaged his temples, feeling a headache. Could it be that the demon lord still cares about the polar domain? Wu Zhuang frowned and said, but looking at the situation now, the polar domain's emperor probably won't come? What's more, with the status of the polar region's sovereign lord, it's impossible. Chapter 4271. He didn't finish his sentence because if he did, it would boost the morale of others and diminish his own prestige. But the meaning behind his words was clear. Not far away, Mo Lian, who was standing behind priest Zhong Li, felt a burst of joy in her heart. Her face under the black veil revealed a carefree expression. June mine, you also have this day. So what if you're a princess that the demon lord dotes on? Wouldn't he still become the laughingstock of the world? What kind of status did the polar domain's sovereign lord have? How could he really come to propose to you? Mo Lian's gaze fell on the youth below. In the demon royal palace, only a few of Jun Shirtyan's trusted subordinates and the priest, Zhong Li, knew about the relationship between Yi Liangchen and the princess. As the only disciple of Zhong Li, Mo Lian naturally knew that Yi Liangchen, the candidate for the princess son-in-law, was the demon princess. Although she can't see her face clearly from afar, Mo Lian believes that at this time, Mayan's heart must be ashamed and annoyed, wishing that she could find a hole to burrow into. When Mo Lian thought about all of this, she felt so happy that she wished for nothing more than to roar with laughter. The spirit cultivators in the venue were completely stirred up by Si Tianqing. One after another, they shouted for Her Highness to come out. Han Jiaming looked at the situation that he had single-handedly taken control of. He glanced at the youth not far away, and the corners of his mouth curled into a leisurely smile. Si Tianqing was just the head of a third-rate family. Logically speaking, he wouldn't dare to stand out and fight against the demon lord. But just now, Han Jiaming intentionally or unintentionally talked to him and hypnotized him. Thus, Si Tianqing became his pawn, his lackey. From the looks of it, this pawn had completed his task very well. He stood on the opposite side of spirit cultivators and demonic cultivators, and from the perspective of dignity, stirred up the spirit cultivators to unite against a common enemy. The spirit cultivators had completely forgotten their fear of the demon lord. Furthermore, the polar domain's sovereign emperor did not attend the heavenly charm banquet, causing humiliation and psychological pressure to the demons. As a result, the devils were caught in a dilemma. What would you do in this situation, Your Highness? Seeing that the young man could no longer restrain himself and was about to stand up, Zhang Xian's eyes widened. The smile on Han Jiaming's face deepened. Everything was within his expectations. But now was not the time to expose the princess's true identity. On the contrary, it was his help that made the demon deity and the princess look at him in a different light and feel grateful. Shen musician? Demon princess? Han Jiaming lowered his eyes. This time, he had to get his hands on it. Why hasn't Her Royal Highness come out since we've said so much? Is he too ugly to see others, or is he really delusional enough to think that the polar region's sovereign lord will come? Stop dreaming. If the polar domain monarch is willing to come to this heavenly enchantment banquet, I will eat all the dishes on this table. At this moment, the devils had already reached the end of their patience. They clenched their fists so hard that they made cracking sounds. Hurry up and open the barrier, I'm going to beat those spirit cultivators to death. I will chop off their heads and feed them to the dogs. When the crowd was at its most excited, Han Jiaming slowly stood up and used his immortal power to send a voice transmission. He said in a clear voice, "Everyone, please listen to me, bang." Just as Han Jiaming finished speaking, a loud noise came from the entrance of the enchantment hall. Wait a minute. Entrance? The Heavenly Charm Palace was a Sumeru mustard seed space. How could there be an entrance? The same thought flashed through many people's minds. Chapter 4272. Due to unknown reasons, Sogu is suddenly unable to search this site today. Everyone, whether it's spirit cultivators or demons, their gazes converge on the door at the same time. Soon after, all of them suddenly widen their eyes, revealing a look of disbelief. Who is that? Could it be that their eyes are playing tricks on them? Dijun. Polar Domains Dijun, how could he appear here? The whole place falls into a deathly silence. They just stare blankly as a group of people walk into the heavenly charm palace as if there's no one else around. They walk past the succubi in the center who have even forgotten to dance, and come to the place where the water curtain barrier appeared just now. Elder Minwei, our Jun Shang is late by 4 hours, you don't need to be so ruthless, right? Han Yi, who is following behind Di Mingju, laughs sloppily. Not only did you close the transmission array, but you also set up a barrier outside the heavenly charm palace. Are you deliberately preventing our Jun Shang from participating in the heavenly charm banquet? Elder Minwei stares blankly, subconsciously looking at his demon lord. Jun Shirtian coldly snorts, avoiding Minwei's line of sight. Elder Minwei's mouth twitches. Coughing lightly, he bows and says, "Greetings, Di Jun." Since Elder Minwei has already expressed his stance, Tian He and the others behind him, as well as the demon elders, even if they are unwilling, they still have to show their attitude. "Greetings, Di Jun." Han Yi and the others behind Di Mingju also slightly bowing to Jun Shirtian. "Greetings, Demon Lord." Boosh. The salute from both sides is like a boulder that has been thrown up high, finally falling down and smashing into the calm lake. Time sets off stormy waves. It's Polar Domains Di Jun. Di Jun really came to participate in the heavenly charm banquet? Quick, pinch me, see if I'm dreaming or not. Does Di Jun really want to marry the demon princess? However, no matter how shocked and incredulous they are also suppressed when a sect under the Polar Domain forces kneel down and shout, "Greetings, Di Jun." In the heavenly charm palace, all the spirit cultivators slowly kneel down. "Greetings, Di Jun." There was no anger or fear in their expressions, only reverence. Even the spirit cultivators of the nether realm were the same, and even the demons did not dare to show the slightest disrespect. This was the Polar Domain's sovereign lord. This was the strongest cultivator in the Xiuxian continent. This was the power of absolute strength. Han Jiaming knelt on the ground and crushed the chopsticks in his hand. The jealousy and anger surging in his chest made him almost unable to control his perfect expression. Jun Shirtian condescendingly looks down at Di Mingju. He then looks at his baby daughter who is sitting to the side, her gaze unblinkingly falling on the man. He only feels that this dog man is not pleasing to the eye. He says coldly, "Di Mingju, what are you doing here?" Di Mingju says faintly, "The Honorable Demon Lord personally sent the invitation. Why are you asking Ben Jun why I've come?" Jun Shirtian gritted his teeth. In his heart, he had already chopped Qin Wen in 100 times. Back then, you were the one who rejected the engagement with the demon race. Now that you are here at the heavenly enchantment banquet, what makes you think that you can marry my daughter? In fact, everyone from the Polar Domain was also curious about this question. They didn't understand at all. It was obvious that their Jun Shang liked Miss Jun. How come in the blink of an eye, after losing his memory, he wanted to marry a demon princess? The scene of Jun Shang mercilessly rejecting the marriage proposal of the demon race is still vivid in their minds? Di Mingju hooks up the corner of his lips and says unhurriedly, "Who said that Ben Jun came to the heavenly enchantment banquet to marry the demon princess?" Di Mingju. Chapter 4273. Jun Shirtian was finally infuriated. He stood up abruptly and emitted a strong killing intent. In an instant, the entire heavenly charm palace seemed to be on the verge of collapse. However, Di Mingju, who has been directly attacked by the storm, seems to be unaware of it. He simply doesn't put this bit of killing intent in his eyes. His gaze swept through the hall, and in the end, his pupils constricted abruptly as it descended onto one of them. Seeing his arrogance, Elder Minwei was infuriated. "Imperial Emperor, if you don't want to marry the princess, then why are you here at the heavenly enchantment banquet? Are you toying with us demons?" Everyone in the fiend race also glowered at the Polar Domain one by one. The atmosphere was tense. As for the spirit cultivators who had recovered from the shock, they felt that this was only natural. That's right. Who was the Polar Domain Empyrean Lord? Why would he fight over a woman with another man? If there was really a woman in this world who caught the eye of the celestial emperor, wouldn't they be eager to marry her? Why would there be a need for the heavenly enchantment banquet? However, if the demon emperor didn't want to marry the demon princess, then why did he come to the heavenly enchantment banquet? Di Mingju doesn't seem to notice the demon race's anger or Jun Shirtian's monstrous killing intent. He slowly pulls up his sleeves, then says in an indifferent voice, "Ben Jun is looking for someone." With that, he took a step forward and arrived at the long table at the side in an instant. Di Mingju's expression is as cold as ice, but there's a violent storm hidden in the depths of his ice-blue eyes. With a wave of his hand, he pulled the youth who was sitting at the table into his arms. The man's voice was low, cold, and magnetic, with a hint of anger. "Didn't I tell you to wait for me? Why did he want to attend the heavenly charm banquet? Do you really want to marry the princess?" Mu Yen is tightly shackled in the man's arms. The tip of her nose is surrounded by the man's familiar cool scent, and the man's suppressed anger echoes in her ears. Her head felt a little dizzy. Wasn't there something wrong with this? Mayan struggles for a moment and breaks free from the man's embrace. She looks up at him and asks in a voice that only the two of them can hear, "Di Mingju, do you know who I am?" But Di Mingju takes this sentence to mean something else. Was this a reminder that this young man was a candidate for the demon princess's son-in-law? The suppressed storm in the depths of Di Mingju's eyes is almost set ablaze. "I don't need you to remind me. I know that you want to marry the demon princess." "Well, that depends on whether or not you'll be able to marry her with me around." Mu Yen, wait a minute, was the way she met Di Mingju wrong? Why is it that after the reunion, she doesn't understand a single word that Di Mingju says? Mu Yan's silence is taken as a tacit agreement by Di Mingju. The flames of jealousy and anger in his heart surged together. He suddenly reached out and pulled the youth to sit down. The chairs prepared by the demons were very large, and it was very spacious and comfortable for one person to sit on. However, when it was replaced by two people, it became especially crowded and ambiguous. Mu Yin struggled to change her position, but her waist was tightly gripped by the man's strong palm. The heat of his palm seemed to seep in through the thin material of her clothes, making her skin feel as if it was about to burn. Di Mingju, this bastard, has he gone crazy? She was dressed as a man in public. Wouldn't that make her the center of attention? Wait a minute. Mu Yin suddenly realizes that there's no need to make any ambiguous moves. The moment Di Mingju walked over to her, the eyes of the entire Heavenly Charm Palace have already focused on her. Whether it's the polar domain, the demons, or the spirit cultivators from all directions, everyone's expressions are more and more stupefied than the last, but their hearts are surging with monstrous waves. Chapter 4274. Jun Shirtian, Bastard Di Mingju. Release this sovereign's daughter. Elder Min Wei, what the hell is this Di Mingju doing? Didn't he just say that he wouldn't marry their princess? Now he's dragging their princess along with him? Had his brain gone haywire after not seeing him for a few months? The surrounding spiritual cultivators thought, "Oh my God, what am I seeing? Why was the polar domain Empyrean emperor hugging a man? And a young demon at that?" So, the polar domain sovereign came all the way to the heavenly enchantment banquet not to marry the demon race princess, but for a man. Am I blind? Or is this world too fantastical? Han Yi, isn't that Miss June? Little Shadow, Elder Chang, look, that's Miss June. Why is Miss June here? Just as Han Yi is about to open his mouth, Ing Mei covers it. Since Miss June is dressing up as a man, she must have her own considerations. Don't talk too much and ruin Mrs. Plans. Also, don't forget who we're bringing along. Hearing Ing Mei's words in his ear, Han Yi suddenly comes back to his senses from his shock. Since the female version of Miss June appeared in the demon race, she must have her reasons. If he were to reveal his identity and ruin her arrangements, then he would not be able to absolve himself of the blame even if he were to die 10,000 times. Furthermore, Ing Mei glanced behind him. Sure enough, he saw the veiled June Mayan staring straight ahead, unable to conceal the killing intent in her eyes. What's more, it wasn't only them, Jun Shang's trusted aides, who came along this time. There was also Commander Tong and the imposter. What if they find out about Miss Jun's identity and harm her? Han Yi takes a deep breath, and there's a burst of lingering fear in his heart. Fortunately, he has Little Shadow's reminder, so he didn't commit a big mistake. However, didn't their family's Jun Shang lose his memory? How did he set his eyes on Miss Jun? The crowd was silent for a while before someone finally came back to his senses. The atmosphere in the hall was still tense, but there were already people whispering to each other, trying to figure out the identity of that youth. To think that the Extreme Domain Sovereign Emperor would treat him differently. Even Elder Minwei was stunned for a long while before he cleared his throat and said with a strange expression, "Since everyone is here, let us begin the selection of the Devil Princess's son-in-law." The demon race had always done things in a straightforward manner. Therefore, the method of the groom selection was very simple. That was to draw lots, form groups of 10, and fight in a free-for-all. The final winner would advance to the next round. Anyone whose looks meet the requirements and who is unmarried can participate. In the competition, you can't fight to the death, but you don't have to worry about injuries. Think about it and participate. There are only 4 of us who are participating in the marriage selection: Bailey Weiran, Yi Liangchen, Tao Wu, and Duguan. They will also participate in the drawing of lots with you and be randomly assigned. Stroking his beard, Elder Min Wei glanced at all the spirit cultivators present and said with a smile, "Didn't all of you want to see the princess? However, our demon race's princess is not someone you can casually see. Only the champion of each group has the right to pay respects to the princess. Do you still have any objections?" The spirit cultivators looked at the people from the polar domain. Seeing that they didn't say anything, they naturally didn't dare to object. "Liang Chen, you know the god monarch?" Bailey Weiran looked at the 2 people huddled together, the light in his eyes dimming little by little. Di Mingju gave him a cold look. This man was an eyesore in Tianguang ruins, and even more so here. Chapter 4275. Seeing that Mayan wants to talk to Bailey Weiran, Di Mingju clasps her chin, his fingertips gently caressing her captivating red lips. His ice-blue eyes suddenly become incomparably serene. Mayan's heartbeat quickens. "What are you doing?" "There's something stained here. Ben Jun will wipe it off for you." "Mayan?" "Di Mingju, who are you trying to fool? I haven't eaten anything since just now. How could there be something stained?" But she knows that this guy's pettiness has flared up, so she doesn't expose him. Di Mingju sees that the attention of the people around him is completely drawn to him, no longer looking at Bailey Weiran. Only then does the anger and jealousy in his heart subside a little. Mayan's line of sight lingers on the man's incomparably handsome face, and she softly says, "Di Mingju, these days, have you—" Before she could finish speaking, she hears a familiar voice from her side. "Di Mingju, won't you introduce this Gongzi's identity to us?" Mayan stares blankly, and she abruptly turns her head to look. What she sees is a woman with a white veil. Although she can't see her entire face, it still makes her pupils shrink. Why did that voice just now feel so familiar? Because that voice is almost exactly the same as when she didn't deliberately lower her voice. And this face, even if it's covered with a white veil, she can still see the exposed brows and eyes, exactly the same as her own. Moreover, this woman just called out the name, Di Mingju? Mayan's eyes dangerously narrow. But before she can open her mouth, Di Mingju slightly raises his eyebrows. A strong gust of energy headed straight for the woman and hit her in the chest. Yu Yenran screams and falls to the ground, blood spraying out directly staining her white veil. "Di Mingju, why are you treating me like this? I'm your most beloved Oh! Yu Yenran's hysterical voice seems to be stuck in her throat, and she can no longer say anything. Her eyes are crimson as she stares at the scene in front of her. The man who just ruthlessly attacked her is now picking up the spiritual fruit pastries on the table and sending them to the youth. Although his expression is still cold, even a fool can see the gentleness between his brows. Yu Yenran almost grinds her teeth to pieces. Yi Liangchen, it's that Yi Liangchen who looks like Jun Mayan again. He was clearly a man, so how could he compare to her? Why would the celestial emperor rather protect a man gently than look at her? Mayan's heart is filled with questions, but Di Mingju's absent-minded words and the food that's been thrown into his mouth has been blocked. She swallowed the food and couldn't help but comment, "It's not as good as what you and fifth brother cook." Di Mingju knit his brows. He's the sovereign monarch of the polar domain, how could he possibly wash his hands and cook soup? But when he met the youth's clear peach blossom eyes, the words at the tip of his tongue became, "If you like it, Ben Jun will cook for you in the future." Standing behind him, Commander Tong's eyes nearly popped out of their sockets when he heard this. His gaze towards Mayan is filled with disgust and resentment, but he immediately restrains it out of fear of Di Mingju. Even though they had already begun drawing lots to determine the participants of the betrothal contest. In the entire banquet hall, there are still quite a few gazes that fall on Di Mingju and Mu Yen from time to time. Unfortunately, the two of them acted as if no one else was present. The group of spirit cultivators, especially the female cultivators from the various clans, were filled with confusion and resentment. Chapter 4276. Due to unknown reasons, Sogu is suddenly unable to find this site today. These female cultivators believed that they were definitely more attractive than the fickle demon princess. From the beginning to the end, he had dreamed of catching the eye of a sovereign emperor and soaring to the sky. At first, he thought that the god monarch would not come, and he was disappointed for a while. The celestial emperor had finally arrived, but the celestial emperor only had eyes for a youth. At this time, Mo Yen, who was holding the crystal ball, walked over to Mu Yen and the others. Compared to her usual voice, it was a little less cold and had a little more sweet-sounding and hoarse tenderness. Please inject your divine sense into the demon core crystal in order to draw the order of the participants. Mu Yen looked up and saw that Mo Yen's words were directed at them. But from time to time, a pair of beautiful eyes flits past Di Mingju. Even though she tries her best to conceal the affection in the depths of her eyes, she can't hide it no matter what. Mu Yen purses her lips, and can't help but give the man next to her a sidelong glance. This guy was as good as always at attracting rotten peach blossoms. But Di Mingju is completely oblivious to the ridicule in her heart. He sees the youngster reaching out to touch the crystal ball. His brows furrowed and he abruptly reached out to grab her hand. His voice was filled with exasperation as he asked, "You must marry the demon princess?" At this moment, Mu Yen is already 100% sure that Di Mingju really has a problem. He didn't seem to recognize her anymore. Mayan's line of sight turns towards Han Yi and Ying Mei, who are not too far away. She sees Han Yi desperately winking at her, and from time to time turns his line of sight towards Di Mingju. Ying Mei, on the other hand, looked at her with a worried expression. Mu Yen is deep in thought. She turned her palm over and gently scratched the man's palm with her fingertips. All of Di Mingju's nerves suddenly go taut, a blush creeping up to his ears at a speed visible to the naked eye. His ice-blue eyes seemed to deepen as he stared at the youth in front of him. Did he know what he was doing? As Di Mingju stares blankly, Mu Yen quickly pulls out her hand and presses it on the crystal ball. After injecting his divine sense, the registration was completed immediately. The desire and bashfulness in Di Mingju's eyes instantly turn into a monstrous fury. He grabbed the young man's hand again and pulled him into his arms. Why? Why did she seem to have feelings for him just a moment ago, and then suddenly want to marry another woman? Was it just because they were both men? No, he didn't care. As long as it's someone that he, Di Mingju, likes, he doesn't care whether it's a man or a woman. Mu Yen looks at the pain and anger in his eyes, and is both angry and amused. It can only be said that Jun Shirtyen's disguise on her is too brilliant. So close that Di Mingju hasn't discovered her identity as a woman. She reached out her other hand and gently scratched the man's tall nose. She said intimately and with a hint of complaint, "Think about it yourself, idiot." Di Mingju stares blankly. Looking at the face that's smiling sweetly right in front of him, he doesn't know why the anger that filled his heart seems to have been pierced by a needle, disappearing without a trace. What flows down is only a heart full of sourness and sweetness. Mo Lien, who had witnessed the intimate interaction between the two of them, gritted her teeth and left with a gloomy face. However, he had barely taken 2 steps when he heard a deep male voice. "Wait a minute. This is Jun's voice." Lien's heart leaps with joy. She forcibly suppresses her wildly beating heart and slowly turns around. She softly says, "Jun, do you have any instructions? Isn't it too crowded to sit here? It would be better to let this subject rearrange it for you." Chapter 4277. Mingju doesn't pay attention to her. He raises his hand and sends a wisp of his divine sense into the crystal ball, then waves, "Okay, you can go." Lien freezes. Elder Minwei's eyebrows jump as he sees this scene. Jun, what do you mean by this?" Mingju doesn't let go of the youngster's hand, his fingertips slowly caressing the smooth skin as he says, "Sign up." "Sign up? Sign up for what?" "Naturally, it's to participate in the princess's groom selection." Elder Minwei coughs. "You just said that you didn't come to marry Her Highness." Mingju doesn't even raise his eyebrows. Jun changed his mind, can't I?" Jun Shirtion suddenly stands up from the main seat. He has endured long enough. This bastard has been taking advantage of his baby daughter. Now he wants to go back on his words and participate in the groom selection. Dream on. You want to marry Jun's daughter, Mingju, dream on. Get out of the heavenly charm palace. Mingju suddenly stands up and protects the youngster behind him. He blocks Jun Shirtion's blow with a palm. Devil energy and immortal power crazily roll over the banquet. A great battle is about to break out. The dancing succubi were so scared that they kept quiet out of fear. They hugged each other and didn't dare to move. "Demon Lord, calm down, calm down. It's the heavenly charm banquet, Her Highness groom selection." Minwei and several demon elders pull Jun Shirtion back, repeatedly dissuading him. On the polar domain side, Han Yi and Ingmei also quickly pull Mingju away. "Jun Shang, this is the demon's territory, Miss Jun. Cough. The person you care about is still next to you. What if you accidentally hurt him?" Elder Minwei looks at Mu Yen for help. He can see it now. The Polar Domain's emperor is indeed pleased with their princess. But he doesn't seem to recognize their princess identity. On the contrary, he takes the princess identity of Yi Liang Chen as a man seriously. Cough cough, what is going on? Mu Yen presses her temples, feeling that her head is twice as big. She flashes between the two, grabs Mingju's hand and presses him behind her. The two of them had been about to unleash their attacks, but when they saw her, they instantly restrained themselves. Mu Yen turns around and glares at Mingju, "Don't make trouble." He then turned to look at Jun Shirtion. "Demon Lord, is it time to start the selection?" Jun Shirtion coldly snorted. Since it was his precious daughter's words, he would listen to it for the time being. But if this Mingju wants to easily take away his baby daughter, he's simply dreaming. A great battle instantly disappeared without a trace. At the same time, the betrothal contest finally began. When the results come out, Mayan is placed in the second last group. A certain sovereign who went back on his word was placed in the last group. Mu Yen looks at the man beside her, whose complexion is as black as the bottom of a pot. She can't help but laugh. Does this guy Mingju still want to be in the same group as her and eliminate her in advance? However, what exactly happened? Why does it seem like Mingju doesn't recognize her? Who is that woman by Mingju's side who looks so similar to her? Mu Yen glances at Han Yi and Ingmei. Right now, it was not a good time to interact with the two of them. After today's banquet, she must find a chance to ask Ingmei what exactly was going on. Where was Xiaobao? Mayan was lost in thought when she suddenly caught sight of the magic crystal platform from the corner of her eye. The match was about to begin. Chapter 4278. Startled, she stands up abruptly. Among the 10 people on the magic crystal platform, there's a young man with delicate features who looks very familiar. Fifth brother. Isn't that fifth brother Ling Yusheng? Mayan's position is very far from the magic crystal platform, but Ling Yusheng seems to have heard her voice. He turns around and gives her a warm smile. It's really fifth brother? Mayan is wild with joy. Fifth brother really saw the message she left in Tianguang ruins, so he came over? If fifth brother is here, then what about the other disciples? Are they here too? However, why is fifth senior brother also participating in the betrothal contest? Fifth brother likes men, and he already has Ouyang Qing, so he naturally won't want to marry a princess. So there's only one reason why he came on stage. That is, he's worried that she will be hurt in the competition, so he took a spot in advance to help her. Mayan feels a burst of warmth in her heart. But Mayan doesn't know that Ling Yusheng's appearance is just the beginning of the reunion of the Xiaoyao school. The contest soon begins. After a few months, Ling Yusheng's cultivation has reached the third level of abstruse immortal. If it's just the speed of improvement, it's simply stunning. But in terms of cultivation, Ling Yusheng is almost the weakest in this group. But Mayan isn't worried at all, because she clearly knows how strong her fellow disciples of the Xiaoyao school are. They can defeat their opponents even if they are at a higher level. What's more, their cultivation has also reached the abstruse immortal. Sure enough, as soon as Elder Min Wei announces the start of the contest, Ling Yusheng's figure is already nowhere to be seen. The other 9 cultivators on the platform are engaged in a fierce battle. But no one notices that Ling Yusheng has disappeared. Mayan's eyes are bright and sparkling as she stares unblinkingly at the figure that is hidden in the crowd, a figure that not many people can see. Fifth brother has become stronger again. She murmurs softly. Ling Yusheng's absolute space field has reached the point where he can freely extend and retract it. His speed is far beyond that of cultivators at the same level. In fact, even a celestial king might not be a match for fifth senior brother in terms of speed. And there's no doubt about the outcome of this contest. Mayan is engrossed in watching, when suddenly her chin is caught by someone. Then a cold voice rang in his ears. Is this person very strong? Why are you so focused on it? Mu Yan turns her head and meets Di Mingju's deep and serene eyes. She can't help but curve up the corners of her lips. She tugged on Emoju's sleeves, pulling him closer to her. She whispered in his ear, "This is your disciple. How can he not be strong, Mentor Emoju?" Di Mingju's pupils contract, his body jerking backwards. He looks at the youngster who's so close at hand. His expression is bewildered and at a loss. How do you know my surname is Emo? Di Mingju's real name was Emoju and his courtesy name was Yenyu. After officially inheriting the position of Polar Domain's emperor, he was crowned with the surname Di, changing his name to Di Mingju. This was a tradition of the Polar Domain. However, Emoju's name was rarely mentioned nowadays. In fact, not many people knew of her. How did this young man know? Mu Yan loosens her grip on his lapel and no longer pays attention to him. Instead, she looks towards the magic crystal platform. As the competition came to an end, Ling Yusheng's figure also appeared. The moment he appeared, the outcome of the battle was decided. Chapter 4279. Looking at the young man standing on the magic crystal platform, the enchantment palace fell into a brief silence, then burst into thunderous cheers. Who is this young man? A disciple of the Flying Swallow sect? How can he be so fast? Ling Yusheng of the Xiaoyao sect? Which sect is the Xiaoyao sect? I've never heard of it before. Everyone in the enchantment palace was amazed by the extreme speed at the last moment. Many of them asked themselves, if they were the ones who had to endure Ling Yusheng's last attack, would they be able to avoid it? The answer was difficult, because it was fast, too fast. When a person's speed reached a certain level, they could break through all limits, and even gods and demons could not stop them. Everyone was discussing Ling Yusheng's identity and background. For the first time, the Xiaoyao sect entered everyone's sight. But the spirit cultivators and demons of the enchantment palace still did not know. In the following days and years, the shock that the Xiaoyao sect would bring them was far from over. In the second round, the winner was the young master of the Yuya Pavilion, Shi Jingwei. In the third round, Mu Yan saw the person she missed, second senior brother Qinjiu. And the winner of the second round was Qinjiu of the Xiaoyao sect. In the fourth round, the young master of the Han clan, Han Jiamingwen. In the eighth round, Mu Yan saw the cross-dressing fourth senior sister, Lin Yuma. Lun Yuma became the winner of the 8th round. At this point, including Yun Ruhan, 5 people from the Xiaoyao sect had gathered at the Enchantment Palace. Only Luo Yu and Chu Mo Li were nowhere to be seen. But Mu Yen was overjoyed. She did not want to continue the competition, and only wanted to reunite with her fellow disciples as soon as possible. The 9th round begins now. Following Elder Min Wei's shout, Mu Yen leaped onto the magic crystal platform. The next moment, a tsunami of shouts came from the stands of the Enchantment Palace. Demon King Yi! Ah, Demon King Yi! We love you! Demon King Yi, you must become the princess's husband. Demon King Yi is invincible. Polar Domain's Hades is not fit to carry his shoes. The princess's husband must be us. Even if I can't defeat the Polar Domain Sovereign Emperor, I would rather share a wife with the Polar Domain Sovereign Emperor and defeat the other toads. When the roar reaches her ears, Mu Yen almost slips under her feet. What do you mean by sharing a wife with the Polar Domain's Sovereign Lord? Where is your integrity? She looks down at Di Mingju. The man's face was as dark as water, and his whole body was shrouded in a thick killing intent, as if he would tear something into pieces in the next moment. Mu Yen rubbed her forehead with her hand, feeling a little funny. If Di Mingju knew that she was the demon princess, she doesn't know how he would react. Good day. A familiar voice entered Mu Yan's ears, causing her to restrain her mind and look at the person not far away. Bailey Weiran. Mu Yan didn't expect her luck to be so good. She just happened to be in the same group as Bailey Weiran. Brother Bailey. Mu Yan greeted him with a smile. Bailey Weiran looked at her deeply. Liang Chen, do you really want to become the princess's husband? If I say that I don't want to be the princess's son-in-law, and I don't want you to be the princess's son-in-law. The youth didn't finish his words, but Mu Yan immediately understood. It turned out that Bailey Weiran liked her, or rather, liked Liang Chen. Mu Yan subconsciously looked at Di Mingju. Chapter 4280. The man's face becomes blurred at this moment. Perhaps it's because the match in the magic crystal platform has already begun, and the barrier rises, preventing the surrounding sounds from interfering with the competition. It's also possible that someone is already so jealous that his face is blurred. Mu Yen is amused by her own imagination. Meeting Bailey Weiran's gaze, she hooks up her lips and smiles softly. I'm sorry, Brother Bailey, I already have a sweetheart, and only that one person I like. As for this competition, I will definitely win. If it was before the Tian Emochin was unsealed, Mu Yen was not sure if she could win against Bailey Weiran. But after the Tian Emochin was unsealed, her strength has almost doubled. Even the Tian Emochin can't appear in front of people now. But she can use the Heavy Phantom skill, letting her doppelganger play in the space. Bailey Weiran, who is at the peak of Xian Immortal, is no longer her opponent. Bailey Weiran is in a trance when the glittering and translucent longsword is pressed against his throat. His gaze sweeps around the magic crystal platform. There are spirit cultivators lying on the ground, each of them unconscious, without any strength to fight back. And he himself has been suppressed from the beginning to the end, with no room to fight back. Is this Demon King Liangchen? Therefore, even if he has only appeared for a few months, he has become the object of pursuit of all the demons. The entire Heavenly Charm Palace is filled with the sound of cheers and shouts. That momentum even overshadowed the appearance of the Polar Domain's monarch. Bailey Weiran's heart suddenly surges with powerlessness, and he can't help but feel relieved. That's right. How could he be worthy of such an outstanding youth? How could he have the qualifications to think about it? Even the powerful Polar Domain's monarch is so gentle and considerate to him, even lingering. Bailey Weiran closes his eyes and says in a hoarse voice, I admit defeat. Almost at the same time as he says these 3 words, a wisp of devil's soul floats out of his body and falls on Mu Yen. Mu Yan's eyes widen in surprise. She sees Bailey Weiran push away the 7 Absolute sword at his throat, slowly gets up, kneels on one knee and bows. Demon Kingy, please allow me, Bailey Weiran, to dedicate my loyalty to you. I pledge my life to follow you without regrets for 1,000 years. Whoosh! Heavenly Charm Palace once again set off a storm. The shouts of the demons in the stands nearly overturned the space within the spatial ring. Many more devil souls floated towards the youth on the magic crystal platform. The name of the great demon king Yi filled everyone's ears, causing the spirit cultivators present to be unable to help but be moved. Who is this Yap Liangshan? Was there such a person in the devil race before? I heard that she's a fallen evil, but how can a fallen evil be so powerful? There were also people who were filled with fear and worry. It's as if I can see the rise of another demon lord. If this young man becomes the princess's son-in-law, I'm afraid the demon race will rise. Elder Min Wei's eyes were filled with gratification and pride as he looked at his princess. Her Royal Highness was so young, yet she was already so powerful. In time, he would definitely inherit the position of the demon lord and become the king of the demon race. He might even become the unprecedented demon emperor. It was great to be able to find Her Royal Highness. Elder Min Wei cleared his throat and said in a clear voice, "The winner of the 10th round is Yap Liangshan of the demon race." Mu Yen sheathed the 7 absolute sword and thought for a moment. Add another 3 words in front of the demon race? Elder Min Wei was stunned. What words? Chapter 4281. Xiaoyao Sect. Everyone in the Heavenly Charm Palace doubted their ears. What? Xiaoyao Sect? Why is it Xiaoyao Sect again? Where did this Xiaoyao Sect come from? How could Mu Yen care about their reactions? As soon as she said this, her fellow apprentices, who were afraid of ruining her plan, quickly moved closer to the magic crystal platform. Mu Yen jumped off the magic crystal platform without thinking and hugged fourth sister Leng Yuma. Then the other people of the Xiaoyao sect also hugged her. Reuniting after a long time, the soul-stirring battle on the floating island a few months ago, the heart-wrenching separation of life and death, all seemed like a lifetime ago at this moment. Second brother, fourth sister, fifth brother, did you all see the announcement I left in the Tianguang ruins? The excitement in Mu Yan's eyes could hardly be concealed. She missed Di Mingju and longed to see Di Mingju and Xiao Bao, but she wasn't that worried. Because before she fainted, she clearly remembered that she saved Di Mingju. And she and Xiao Bao had a mother and son connection, so she would definitely feel it if something happened to Xiao Bao. Since Xiao Bao was safe and sound, he must have been saved by Di Mingju. But the disciples were different. That was the first time she used Nirvana of Stars. Mu Yan didn't know if Nirvana of Stars could really save the 6 disciples who had already breathed their last. What if it couldn't? What if only a few people were saved? If they were like little Marshall Uncle and Chi Wen, Mu Yan didn't dare to think about that result. Now that she could see everyone safe and sound, how could she not be ecstatic? Oh, right, third brother and Xiao Qi. As soon as Mu Yan's words left her mouth, she saw a man in black slowly pushing a wheelchair towards her. The weak man sitting in the wheelchair had a gentle smile on his face that never changed. Who else could it be other than the black-bellied third brother of the Xiaoyao sect? Mu Yan said happily, "Third brother, you're here too?" Chu Moli said with a faint smile, "I couldn't get a place for little sister, I'm really sorry." Mu Yan looked at him as if she was looking at a monster. "Third brother, you actually know how to be sorry? I think you're sorry that you almost don't recognize you?" The members of the Xiaoyao sect couldn't help but laugh out loud. Chu Moli didn't get angry in the slightest and said unhurriedly, "That's true, but it's just a formality. Little junior sister doesn't need to take it to heart." He pauses for a moment, then takes a deep look at Mu Yan. His lips then open and close, spitting out a few syllables. These words were spoken very softly, only Mu Yan could hear them. Her eyes immediately widened as she looked at Chu Moli in shock. However, just as she was about to speak, she saw Chu Moli raise his index finger to his lips, making a shushing gesture. Mayan suppresses the peculiar feeling in her heart, and her expression remains the same. Yun Ruhen sighed softly. The only regret is that little Seven didn't come. He didn't know if it was because he didn't see the summons in the Tianguang ruins, or because he couldn't make it to the hidden abyss before the heavenly enchantment banquet. Luo Yu, who was still looking at her senior brothers and sisters from the spectator stand, was already on the verge of tears. Boo, I'm here. After being stunned for a moment, everyone finally came back to their senses. What kind of sect is this Xiaoyao sect? How come I've never heard of it before? Moreover, it's clearly a sect for us human spirit cultivators. How did a demon race sneak in? Hearing these people's discussion, Leng Yuma sneered. Who said that a human spirit cultivator sect can't have a demon race? Our Xiaoyao sect does. Do you have any objections? Chapter 4282. Quite a few of the spirit cultivators frown in disgust. In their eyes, the demon race is crude, inferior, they don't look up to them. A dignified spirit cultivator, moreover one with a promising future at such a young age. Wouldn't mixing with a demon race be degrading themselves? Ah, no wonder I've never heard of this Xiaoyao school before. It's a low-level sect that can recruit any Tom, Dick, or Harry. If I become fellow disciples of the same sect with a demon race, how can I face people later? Because in the demon race's territory, these people don't dare to speak ill of the demon race. However, whispers and spiritual voice transmissions could be heard endlessly. Although Mayan can't hear what they're saying, how could she not guess just by looking at their expressions? She can't help but curl her lips into a mocking smile. She takes a few steps to the front of the magic crystal platform and watches the man leisurely walking down from the platform. Thus, the 10th round of the betrothal contest came to an end. There's naturally no suspense about the result. From the moment Di Mingju stepped onto the magic crystal platform, the other 9 people were doomed to fail. Especially since those 9 people are all spirit cultivators. They don't even have the interest to go up and compare notes with Di Jun. How could a mere Xian immortal compete with the Xiuxian continent's #1 expert, the immortal emperor? Isn't that more ridiculous than an ant trying to shake a tree, or an egg hitting a stone? But the man who won without a fight clearly doesn't feel happy. As soon as he thinks that the youngster in front of him wants to marry another woman, he can't restrain the rage burning in his chest. Mayan looks up at the man's incomparably handsome face, and uses a voice that everyone can hear to ask, Dijun, if my Xiaoyao school wants to take root in the polar domain, would you agree? Di Mingju slowly walks down the stairs, arriving in front of her. The 2 people are so close that they can almost hear each other's breathing. He uses a voice that only the 2 of them can hear. If you promise Ben Jun not to marry the demon princess, then Ben Jun will agree. How about it? A mischievous smile flashes through Mayan's eyes, and she slowly says, if I don't marry the demon princess, then you won't? Naturally. Mayan stifles her laughter and says softly, Di Mingju, remember what you're saying now. Don't regret it later. Di Mingju frowns, his eyes flashing with doubt. What did he have to regret? Regret agreeing not to marry the demon princess? What a joke. Ever since he saw the youth in front of him, there was only one person in his mind. Why would he want to marry a demon princess? Di Mingju resists the urge to pull her into his arms, and faintly says, if the Xiaoyao school wants to enter the polar domain, Ben Jun will open up a mountain for you in the imperial region. Whoosh! The moment he said that, the spirit cultivators were shocked. What the hell? Within the imperial domain. What was the location of the polar domain's imperial domain? There was the most powerful protective barrier on the outside, and the polar domain's army on the inside. Whether it was safety or resources, it was something all sects yearned for even in their dreams. But now, it was given to an unknown sect so easily? However, the people from the Xiaoyao sect all acted as if it was a matter of course. Their faces were filled with joy, but not shock. The jealousy in the hearts of the spirit cultivators almost drowned them. However, at this moment, the cold voice of Jun Shirtian came from the main seat of the Heavenly Charm Palace. There is no need to go to the polar domain. As long as the Xiaoyao sect is willing to stay in the hidden abyss, you can choose the location of the Demon Imperial Palace. You can choose the Shumi mustard seed space. Everyone sucked in a mouthful of cold air. Chapter 4283. Is the Demon Lord crazy? It's reasonable for the Emperor of Polar Domain to leave the Xiaoyao school in the Royal Domain. After all, the Xiaoyao school only has one demon, which can't do anything. But the remaining members of the Xiaoyao school are all human spirit cultivators. The demon lord left the Xiaoyao school in the hidden abyss, and allowed them to enter and leave the demon palace at will. Isn't he afraid that the entire demon clan will be wiped out? The spirit cultivators' thoughts are twisting and turning. They think that the demon lord's decision will be strongly opposed by all the demons. However, the next moment, the reaction of the demons is far beyond their expectations. The high-level demons in the Enchantress palace frown, but they don't oppose it too much. On the other hand, after a moment of silence, earth-shattering cheers erupted from the stands. The demon lord is wise. The Xiaoyao school should stay in the hidden abyss. Demon King, stay. Even if you have joined a sect of human spirit cultivators, we are willing to follow you until death. Yes, we, the demons, are not as snobbish as the human spirit cultivators. Although we hate spirit cultivators, if you are Demon King Ye's fellow disciples, we are willing to accept you. The Xiaoyao school belongs to the demons. The Xiaoyao school belongs to the demons. The Xiaoyao school belongs to the demons. In the end, the messy shouts became one after another, shouting in unison. Not only the spirit cultivators of the Xiuxing continent are dumbfounded. The people of the Xiaoyao school, Han Yi, and Ying Mei are also dumbfounded. Junior sister, how did you do it? It's only been a few months, how did you get so many loyal supporters in the demons? This display is simply not inferior to the Liangshan army and the devastatingly beautiful army from back then. Yun Ruhen chuckles, these demons don't know the true identity of junior sister, otherwise they would be 100 times crazier. True identity? What true identity? Big brother, tell us quickly, don't keep us in suspense. Yun Ruhen pats Ling Yuxing's head, don't worry, you will know soon. Leng Yuma blinks and says in disbelief, Big brother, even you have become two-faced. Has he been led astray after spending so much time with junior sister? Mu Yen giggled and said, this has nothing to do with me. Even if I'm led astray, it's still eldest sister-in-law's fault. Don't wrongly accuse me. Sister-in-law? What sister-in-law? We haven't seen each other for a few months. What did we miss? Eldest senior brother, did you really find eldest senior sister-in-law for us? Yun Ruhan's ears reddened, and she lightly tapped Mayan's forehead, indicating for her not to speak nonsense. Eldest senior brother, why are you so shy? My family's little monk and I have always openly displayed our affection. Leng Yuma shouted loudly and glanced at Jing Yuan, who was sitting not far away. The little monk, who had been quietly sitting at the side with his eyes lowered to reduce his presence, somehow sensed her presence. He raised his head and gave her a shy smile. His clear eyes were astonishingly bright. Chapter 4284. Due to unknown reasons, Sogu is unable to find us today. Dear readers, please remember our domain name, Sea of Books, and find your way home. Yun Ruhen touched her forehead. Stop fooling around, we are still at the enchantment banquet. Moreover, Shao Qi and have not reunited with us yet. Yun Ruhen did not say the words martial uncle. But in an instant, everyone in the Xiaoyao sect understood. The happy atmosphere of reunion, the worries and fears that they had deliberately forgotten, finally came back to their minds. Leng Yuma grabbed Mu Yan's hand and asked softly, Martial uncle, is he still alive? Only Mu Yan, who had survived till the end, could answer this question. But she could not answer. Or rather, she did not want to believe the only answer. Mu Yan moved her lips and was about to speak. Suddenly, she saw a little monk in a golden red robe appear in front of Leng Yuma. Jing Yuan's usually shy and calm face showed a rare look of fear and panic. Leng Yuma was shocked. Little monk, what's wrong? Yuma, I need to leave for a while. I need to go back to the sect. Little monk, what happened? Jing Yuan's eyes were filled with reluctance, his slender hands holding Leng Yuma's hand tightly, not willing to let go. He did not know why, but he had a premonition. After this trip, he might not see Yuma for a long time. Maybe something would change in the future. But he had to go. Every direct disciple of Debiai Temple was bound to the spirit bell in Debiai Temple. Once Debiai Temple was in trouble, the spirit bell would ring in their sea of consciousness. The last time the spirit bell rang was a few months ago. He did not go back that time, but he received the news of second brother's death. This time, the spirit bell rang even more intensely. This proved that the misfortune in Defying Temple was even more terrible and tragic than second brother's death. Master Bodhidharma and eldest brother were in the temple. He could not sit back and watch them be in danger. Yuma, wait. He wanted to say, wait for me, but the last word was stuck in his throat. Even his master, Bodhidharma, was unable to deal with such a formidable foe. Could he really escape unscathed? If Umo waited for him and he never came back, Umo would never come back. Jing Yuan closed his eyes, and his figure began to fade away. Leng Yuma pounced forward and reached out to grab him, but she passed through his figure. Little monk, where are you going? At least tell me where you're going. The figure in the golden-red kasaya finally disappeared completely. In the end, there were only 3 words left in Leng Yuma's ears, or rather, only in her ears. Defying Temple. Defying Temple. Leng Yuma's eyes widened. Because of the forceful tearing of space, the entire heavenly charm palace shook slightly. Di Mingju, Jun Shirtian and the others all turned their gazes towards Jing Yuan. Jing Yuan came to the submerged abyss to accompany Leng Yuma. Since he was in the Yin-Yang sect, he had concealed all of his aura and tried his best to reduce his sense of existence. Because he didn't deliberately search for him, even Di Mingju and Jun Shirtian didn't notice his existence. But in order to rush back to Defying Temple, he couldn't care about anything else. When Jing Yuan's figure completely disappeared, Mayan and the others came back to their senses. Fourth sister, what's wrong? Did something happen to Great Master Jing Yuan? If there's really a disaster, I'll ask Demon Lord and Di Mingju for help. Chapter 4285. Mu Yan put her hand on Leng Yuma's shoulder and looked at her with concern. When Leng Yuma met her gaze, she felt as if her heart was being squeezed by something. She gripped the handle of the red lotus soul-seizing blade and loosened it bit by bit. She said hoarsely, "Nothing, he just had to go back to the sect." In the end, she did not say the last words left by the little monk. Defying Temple? Which Defying Temple? Was it the Defying Temple that put little Uncle Master through the worldly tribulation and finally wanted to kill him? Was it the Defying Temple that almost destroyed the entire Xiaoyao sect? Why did the little monk leave these 3 words? What was his relationship with Defying Temple? Was the little monk from Defying Temple? No, it couldn't be. Leng Yuma clenched her teeth and suppressed the fear and panic in her heart. The little monk could not be related to Defying Temple, absolutely not. Far East, Defying Temple. Black flames burned every corner of the temple. Jueming shrank in the corner, listening to the cries, wails, and roars around him. He felt as if his throat was being strangled and he could not breathe. What he saw was darkness and blood mixed with red. Corpses after corpses were strewn all over the ground in extremely twisted postures. What had happened? Jueming thought blankly. 2 days ago, Defying Temple was still peaceful. The Sanskrit was faint, delivering all living things from suffering. Every monk in Defying Temple was proud to be in the world's #1 Buddhist holy land. Every believer in Mercy City devoutly believed in Buddha and worshipped every monk in Defying Temple. But why did everything change overnight? From the moment that group of people appeared in Mercy City, from the moment that handsome young man who was 100 times scarier than a devil descended from the sky, everything had been turned upside down. Ha, Defying Temple, you bald donkeys have this day? When you treated our lives as nothing and let us experience the mortal tribulation, did you ever think that this day would come? People of Fentian, listen to me. Today, I will vent all your anger, accumulated grievances, and monstrous hatred. Kill all the bald donkeys in Defying Temple, let them have a taste of the pain and torture we once suffered. Ha! Shrill screams rang out one after another. Occasionally, there would be the angry roars of his fellow disciples. Everyone, hold on. Bodhidharma and the abbot will definitely win. That's right. Evil will never triumph over good. The devil's doctrine of world destruction will be destroyed by the heavens and the earth. Debi Temple will definitely obtain the final victory. Kill all the demons and protect our Buddhist holy land. Jueming hid in a corner, his body trembling as he covered his ears and curled up into a ball. Buddha, if you have the virtue of cherishing life, if good and evil are rewarded, why don't you show yourself? Why did he allow these villains to kill and wreak havoc in the sacred Debi Temple? What did the red dust ambush that those burning heaven villains mention mean? Could it be that Debi Temple had really done something outrageous? The young man's almost perfect face flashed through Jueming's mind. His crimson eyes were cold and indifferent, as if he had already experienced the vicissitudes of life and no longer cared about the mortal world. But even though it was so cold and cruel, an indescribable sadness welled up in Jueming's heart when he met that pair of eyes. When that person threatened him to come to Debi Temple, he said he wanted the resurrection lamp. Chapter 4286. Why did he want the lamp of resurrection? Why did he lead the demons of Fentian to Debi Temple for a bloody massacre? Jueming looked into the distance with a pale face. It was a battlefield that no one dared to approach. From time to time, there were dazzling golden lights and black flames flying out. And every time a black flame fell, a part of Debi Temple would be ignited. As long as the disciples below the immortal king level were touched by the black flame, they would immediately scream. They could only watch as their flesh and bones were burned by the black flame. The holy flame of underworld Een. That was the coldest and most terrifying holy flame of underworld Een. At the end of this battle, even if Debi Temple won, it would still suffer heavy losses. Jueming did not know how much time had passed. Suddenly, there was a loud bang. The most majestic hall of Debi Temple collapsed in the deafening sound of the explosion. The battle that had been raging like a raging fire slowly calmed down. Everyone's eyes were focused on the collapsed hall. The monks of Debi Temple had tears in their eyes, as well as an indescribable sense of loss and despair. And the people of Fentian held their breath. Their eyes were red as they stared unblinkingly at the smoke and dust that permeated between heaven and earth. Every one of them could hear their heartbeats pounding in their ears. It was as if some emotion that had been suppressed for thousands of years was finally about to burst out at this moment. The dust finally dissipated, and the result was revealed to everyone. They finally saw the figure who had fallen miserably among the rubble and broken tiles. It was the abbot of Debi Temple, Master Shanhui. He was the spiritual leader of all the monks, the first person in Buddhism, Bodhidharma. They used to be high and mighty, but at this moment, they looked so miserable and wretched. It also seemed to indicate the end of Debi Temple. Finally, some monks of Debi Temple could not help but burst into tears. Their courage and faith seemed to have been punctured by something, and they could never return to the past. One by one, they fell to the ground, their bodies prostrated on the ground, and let out heart-wrenching cries of despair. And the people of Fentian were the opposite. They still could not believe what they had seen. Debi Temple had fallen? The culprits who had caused their miserable lives, were they really, really at the end of their rope? Dark Knight 11th clenched his fists tightly. Her fingernails dug into her palms, but she didn't feel anything. He gazed at the sky, his crimson eyes staring unblinkingly. No one knew what he was waiting for, until he saw that familiar figure slowly descend from the skies. He had silver hair and crimson eyes. He was like a fiend god that had descended into the world, controlling the universe and the vitality of all living things. Dark Knight's 11th suddenly felt his eyes turn red. His body seemed to instinctively kneel down. "Greetings, Burning Heaven Lord." Then came Anya 3 and Anya 7, "Welcome, Lord Fentian." After that, it was everyone from Fentian. "Welcome, Master Burning Heaven." Luo Yunxiao did not look at the little monks who were crying and trembling, nor did she look at the people of Fentian who were kneeling and shouting. He slowly descended to the ground, his gaze landing on Bodhidharma and Abbot Shanhui. His voice was as cold and indifferent as ever. "Where is the soul-returning lamp? Bodhidharma stared deeply at Luo Yunxiao with his cloudy eyes, then opened his mouth and coughed out a mouthful of blood. Amitba, Bodhidharma said in a hoarse and weak voice, "Benefactor, the sea of bitterness is boundless. Repent and you will be saved. If this goes on, your nature will be swallowed by the soul of destruction, and the three realms of heaven and earth will be plunged into misery and suffering." Chapter 4287. Due to unknown reasons, this site is suddenly unavailable on Sogu today. Please remember the domain name, Sea of Books, and find your way home. Repent and be saved? Before Luo Yunxiao could answer, Anya 11 roared hysterically, "Damn bald donkey, why didn't you repent and be saved when you made us the hosts of the mortal tribulation? What did we do wrong? Why should we be deserted, alone, and finally tortured to death?" "Shut up. Cough, cough, cough." Shan Hui wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth and said angrily, "Debi Temple does everything for the sake of the common people. We never seek personal gain. Sacrificing the hosts of the mortal tribulation to protect the thousands of creatures in the 3 realms and 6 realms was the only way my master could save the world. We, Debi Temple, have never had any selfish motives. But you, Luo Yunxiao, if my martial uncle was not in the temple and my master had been seriously injured when he sealed the demon of destruction 1,000 years ago, he would not have been defeated by you today." Shan Hui sneered, "Luo Yunxiao, what do you want the resurrection lamp for? To resurrect the important people? Unfortunately, you are the host of the half-soul of the world destroyer. You are destined to be abandoned by the world and die a miserable death. Stop dreaming if you want the resurrection lamp." Luo Yunxiao's expression did not change at all. He twisted his fingers, and a black flame appeared in his palm. Slowly, in a calm tone, he said, "Then let's do it this way. Since there is no resurrection lamp, everyone here will die." The black flame flew from his fingertips and fell to the ground. It was different from the black flame that only burned the surrounding area. As soon as this black flame fell to the ground, it began to burn wildly and spread. In the blink of an eye, the whole Debi temple was enveloped in flames. The monks at the Immortal King realm hurriedly opened the protective shield to protect the disciples around them. But their faces became paler and paler, and their bodies trembled violently. Their eyes were full of despair and sorrow. Everyone knew that such a protective shield would not last long. Soon, they would be burned to ashes by the dark holy flame. Weeping, begging, and cursing filled the air. Shan Hui screamed, "Luo Yunxiao, don't you dare. Our Debi temple is the leader of the righteous path in the world, the sacred land of Buddhism. If you dare to destroy Debi temple, the spirit cultivators in the world will not let you off." Bodhidharma closed his eyes and said in a hoarse voice, "Benefactor, if I give you the lamp of resurrection, will you really spare the monks of Debi temple?" Luo Yunxiao faintly replied, "Yes." "All right, I'll give you the soul resurrection lamp." "Master!" Shan Hui screamed. There were also monks at the Immortal King realm who cried out in alarm. How could the dignified Debi temple come to a compromise with an evil spirit? Bodhidharma simply sighed softly, then flipped his hand, causing a semi-translucent lamp to appear in the palm of his hand. "Benefactor Luo, this is the resurrection lamp you asked for. With the soul resurrection lamp as a vessel, coupled with a rare item of extreme yin and yang in the world, the dead can be resurrected. However, to defy the heavens and change one's fate, one must pay the price. I believe Benefactor Luo knows this better than anyone else." Bodhidharma pushed his hand, and the soul resurrection lamp floated in front of Luo Yunxiao. Luo Yunxiao reached out and took it. Her fingertips gently caressed the lamp, and a ripple finally appeared in her calm eyes. "Mu Yen, Yun Ruhen, Qin Jiu, Chu Moli, Ling Yuma, Ling Yuxing, Lan Lu." Chapter 4288. The only Xiaoyao sect that belonged to him in this world. As long as the Xiaoyao sect could return, he was willing to pay any price. Bodhidharma looked at the fluctuating emotions in his eyes. He suddenly closed his eyes and murmured, "Master, Grandmaster, did we make a mistake? Was the red dust ambush really wrong? Master! Shan Hui shouted. Master, we are Debii Temple. How can we compromise with evil? I'd rather die in battle than submit to this demon and let him take away our temple's treasure. Bodhidharma sighed softly. Amitba. Shan Hui, you're willing to die in battle. But what about the monks of Debii Temple? What about the people of Mercy City? Don't tell me you want them to pay with their lives for the karma we sowed? Shan Hui said agitatedly, everything we did was in accordance with the will of heaven. What karma? The red dust ambush is the only way to save the world. Master, we did nothing wrong. No. Bodhidharma shook his head and suddenly flicked a prayer bead in front of his chest. The prayer bead flew towards Luo Yunxiao and landed in the center of the resurrection lamp. This prayer bead contains the items of extreme yin and yang that Debii Temple collected to resurrect Wu Che. You'll have to rely on yourself for the other half, Benefactor Luo. Luo Yunxiao looked up. A flash of surprise passed through his eyes. Shan Hui stood up agitatedly and shouted, Master, how can you do this? Why are you helping that demon? He wanted to rush over and take back the resurrection lamp and the prayer bead. Unfortunately, his injuries were too severe. His legs were almost burnt to ashes by the dark yin holy flame. Even with his celestial prime cultivation, it would take at least a year for him to gradually recover. Shan Hui fell to the ground. He could only watch with bloodshot eyes as Luo Yunxiao kept the resurrection lamp and the prayer bead and turned to leave. Benefactor Luo, please remember, do not kill. Do not go against the will of heaven. The more blood you have on your hands, the more your self-consciousness will be devoured by the half-soul. Until one day, you will no longer recognize your family and be alone for the rest of your life. It will be too late for regrets. Luo Yunxiao paused for a moment and then disappeared on the spot. Fen Tian and the others saw Luo Yunxiao disappear. Although they were unwilling, they quickly retreated. Debii Temple finally regained its peace. But all that was left was a scene of desolation, fear, and panic. Master, cough cough cough. Master, why? Why did you compromise with that demon? As soon as they entered one of the intact inner halls, Shan Hui immediately shouted at the top of her lungs, Marshal Uncle Xing En and Junior Brother Jingyuan went out. They'll be back as soon as they sense that Debii Temple is in danger. I don't believe that we can't kill Luo Yunxiao with the combined strength of the entire Debii Temple. Bodhidharma closed his eyes and said softly, Shan Hui, do you know what Luo Yunxiao's current cultivation base is? Shan Hui was stunned. Immortal Emperor? Bodhidharma's voice was hoarse and dejected. Or perhaps even stronger than the Immortal Emperor. By gathering the strength of the entire temple, do you wish for Debii Temple to disappear from the world and disappear without a trace? If you and I join hands, we can't even seriously injure him. Do you really think that with Si, En and Jing Yuan, we can win? Even if there's a chance of winning, will Debii Temple still have its former glory? Shan Hui listened in a daze. The anger and unwillingness on her face were gradually replaced by fear and confusion. Bodhidharma smiled bitterly and said, Moreover, the killing in the mortal world is the cause, and today's ending is the effect. Chapter 4289. Bodhidharma smiled bitterly. Moreover, the worldly tribulation is the cause, and the current outcome is the effect. We chose these people to be the hosts of the worldly tribulation for the sake of all living beings in the world. But the pain and harm we cause them is also real. Wu Che's death and the heavy casualties in Debii Temple are the sins we have committed, and we have to bear the consequences. Shan Hui covered his face with his hands. Through the gaps between his fingers, he saw his burned legs and felt the powerlessness and pain in his body. His body trembled uncontrollably, and he kept muttering, No, we didn't do anything wrong. We did it for the sake of all living beings in the world. Everyone has the right to punish evil spirits. Senior Marshal Brother, what happened? Why did Debii Temple become like this? A low voice came from outside the door, making Shan Hui raise his head. A monk with a broad and peaceful face, wearing a Buddhist headscarf, slowly walked into the inner hall. Martial Uncle Sisi. Shan Hui called out softly with tears in his eyes. He gritted his teeth and said, "It's the host of the half-soul that destroyed the world. He led Fentian and the other evil spirits to attack Debii Temple, slaughtered the monks, and stole the soul return lamp." Bodhidharma put his palms together and said in a low voice, "Amitba. It's great that you're back. Next, everything in Debii Temple is in your hands." Before he finished speaking, Bodhidharma suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. His body could no longer support itself, and he fell down. "Master. Senior martial brother. I see." And put his palms together, facing the ruins of Debii Temple outside, and softly recited the expiation scripture. After and expiated, Shan Hui gritted his teeth and said, "Martial uncle, we can't let this matter go. We must take back the soul return lamp and those treasures of extreme yin and yang. Otherwise, how can Wu Che be resurrected?" Xin lowered his eyes and said, "You're right. The host of the world-destroying demon must be killed. Otherwise, the 3 realms and 6 Dao will no longer exist." Shan Hui was overjoyed when she heard that. "Martial aunt, this matter cannot be delayed any longer. Even though that demon has defeated Master and I, he has also suffered quite a heavy injury. I will immediately contact the Sovereign Lord of the Polar Domain, and then follow the aura of the Soul Return Lamp to find him. We will definitely be able to capture Fentian and the other demons in one fell swoop." Then's eyelids moved slightly. He was about to speak. A young novice monk hurriedly ran out, his face filled with fear as he said, "Benefactors and abbots, you should go and have a look." Bodhidharma. Shan Hui's expression changed drastically when she heard this. She no longer cared about slaying this apocalyptic fiend. She pressed her hand against the ground, sending her legless body flying towards Bodhidharma's room. Senior brother was burned by the world-extinguishing fire 1,000 years ago and has yet to fully recover from his injuries. Now that he's severely injured and his immortal bones are destroyed, I'm afraid he's in danger. See, and slowly exhaled. His peaceful expression was now filled with deep worry. Shan Hui felt as if she had been struck by lightning. Her body, which was already heavily injured, was now on the verge of collapse. You're saying that Master, he will die?" "No, absolutely impossible. He won't. Master is the #1 expert of the present age. If he hadn't been severely injured 1,000 years ago, he would have been the first person to become an immortal emperor. Even the Sovereign Lord of the Polar Domain can't compare to him. How could Master possibly die?" "Amitba." En sighed softly, his eyes revealing sorrow and hesitation. Chapter 4290. Martial uncle, there must be a way to save Master, right? I'll go to the Polar Domain to find the sacred ancestor Medicine King. He has an elixir that can bring the dead back to life. He can definitely save Master. Sithwen took a deep breath as if he had made up his mind. If we can find the sacred ancestor Medicine King, then senior brother may have a chance to live. But now senior brother is like a lamp without oil. If he doesn't breathe, I'm afraid that even if the sacred ancestor Medicine King arrives, it will be too late. I will use all my strength to hang on to senior brother's last breath. Shan Hui, take the elders out first. By this time tomorrow, if I succeed, you will immediately go to the Polar Domain to find the sacred ancestor Medicine King. If I fail, alas, maybe it's God's will." Shan Hui looked at Si, and with gratitude. His legs had been crippled by Luo Yunxiao, so he couldn't kneel now. He could only kowtow to Xin. All the monks in the room knelt down and looked at Xin with worship and hope. When Bodhidharma was defeated, they thought the sky had collapsed. Their hearts were full of pain and despair. But now they realized that martial Uncle Xi's cultivation was not much weaker than Bodhidharma's. As long as he was alive, Debii Temple would not collapse. The door of the main hall was slowly closed. Xi then sat cross-legged in front of Bodhidharma. He gently knocked the wooden fish in his hand. Immediately, a ray of light emitted and enveloped the whole room. His eyes stared unblinkingly at the pale, unconscious Bodhidharma in front of him. He didn't know if it was because of the flickering light in the room, but a faintly discernible blue light flashed in the bottom of his turbid eyes. The next moment, he lowered his eyes and quickly formed a complicated and strange seal with his fingers. As more and more runes were formed, more and more seals were formed. A small black hole appeared in Enchantress's chest. This black hole seemed bottomless. It gently rotated, getting bigger and bigger. Wisps of black gas floated out of the hole and wrapped around Bodhidharma's body like poisonous snakes. Bodhidharma's originally calm and still face showed a painful expression. He groaned and opened his eyes. Seeing Zheng and sitting across from him, he couldn't come to his senses for a moment. His turbid eyes slightly widened. "Junior brother, what are you doing?" Hearing this, Ci also opened his eyes and revealed a shallow smile. "Senior Martial brother, you're awake? Actually, you shouldn't have woken up. Isn't it more peaceful and blissful to walk towards death in ignorance?" Bodhidharma's expression changed. "Cien, what are you doing?" He abruptly lowered his head and felt the terrifying energy twining around his body. His face was filled with shock and anger. "Soul-stealing curse. Cien, how could you know such a vicious curse?" The spirit-snatching curse could completely plunder a person's cultivation and divine soul into one's own body without any sequelae of incompatibility. This curse technique was too insidious and heaven-defying, so it was extremely difficult to achieve the conditions. First of all, this person must be extremely proficient in curse. Even in the Jioli tribe, which was famous for its curse technique, almost no one could do it. Secondly, the strength of the person who cast the curse must be comparable to that of the person who was cursed. Moreover, the person who cast the curse must complete all the seals without the other party resisting. Only then would the person not be counterattacked by the soul-stealing curse. Chapter 4291. Otherwise, cultivators would instinctively reject unfamiliar auras even when they were unconscious. Not to mention completing the soul-stealing curse. Bodhidharma's body swayed slightly, and his voice was hoarse and trembling. "You want to steal my cultivation base? Was this your plan from the moment you entered Debi Temple?" And gently smiled and slowly said, "You can't say that. The most important reason I came to Debi Temple was to get close to the spirit clock and find the other half of the World Destroyer soul. This was because only by finding the other World Annihilation half-soul could he activate the other half of the Mortal Tribulation's host soul. But I really didn't expect." His eyes darkened and his voice deepened. The host body of this generation's Mortal Tribulation, Luo Yunxiao, was able to activate the world-destroying soul body on her own without the catalysis of the other half of the soul and fuse with it. Because of this unforeseen event, all of my plans have to be brought forward. Debi Temple must be completely under my control. If that's the case, there's no value in your existence anymore, senior brother. Bodhidharma's body trembled violently. "You're not Cian. Who are you? What do you want?" Cian's voice is still gentle, but there's a bit of melancholy in it. "Originally, I didn't want to take the risk of using the soul-stealing curse, but who told Di Mingju's cultivation to grow too fast these years? Even the cultivation of Luo Yunxiao, the host of the half-soul that destroys the world, has reached the realm of Immortal Emperor. With my current cultivation, I'm afraid it will be difficult for me to fight against these two. But with Senior Martial Brothers' cultivation, things are different. At that time, no one in this world would be a match for me. In the 3 paths 6 realms, I will be the only king. Senior brother, it's a pity that you won't be able to see that day." Bodhidharma struggled with all his might, blood gushing out of his eyes, ears, nose, and mouth. He had to stop the person in front of him and stop Debi Temple from turning into hell even if he had to risk his soul to be destroyed. And sneered, "You've been replenished by my soul-stealing curse. Do you think you still have a chance to escape?" As he spoke, the speed at which his fingers formed seals became faster and faster, and a scarlet light shot out from his eyes. Bodhidharma could sense his life force draining away bit by bit. As his blood drained and his spiritual power disappeared, his body became colder and colder, and his vision became blurry. But at this moment, his ears seemed to hear a hazy and distant voice. Jingyuan, what took you so long? Where is Master? Luo Yunxiao, it's Luo Yunxiao. Jingyuan, you must avenge Master and the disciples of Debi Temple. Luo Yunxiao. Did Luo Yunxiao kill him? Did Luo Yunxiao owe him something? That's not it. It was him. Debi Temple owed Luo Yunxiao. The red dust ambush was meant to kill one's emotions and heart. He thought that it was for the sake of the world, for the peace of the 3 paths and 6 realms. But in reality, apart from achieving their undeserved reputation, apart from causing hundreds of thousands of innocent lives to suffer and fall into eternal hell, what else did they gain? Was he wrong? The Red Dust Massacre, Debi Temple, and the world of righteousness, were they all wrong? Amitba, Bodhidharma murmured an almost soundless Buddhist mantra. Suddenly, his eyes widened and he spat out a mouthful of blood. The blood splashed on Zen's face, and suddenly turned into a golden flame that burned. Zen's face changed, and a trace of anger flashed across his eyes. Chapter 4292. His hand seals become faster and faster, as if there are afterimages. Bodhidharma's round eyes finally see Zen's face. His eyes are filled with extreme shock. His hoarse voice suddenly rises. You? How could it be you? Bodhidharma's body finally can't hold on any longer. He slowly falls down, completely lifeless. He then wipes the blood from his face and slowly stands up. He operates the divine power in his body, his face showing a satisfied expression. The Mortal Emperor. I've finally reached the Immortal Emperor realm. Ha! Who in this world can stop me from dominating? The Shen musician, Luo Yunxiao, Di Mingju, no one. And laughs for a while, then takes out a talisman and sticks it on his face. As the black smoke dissipates, his face begins to quickly change and distort, finally restoring Zen's appearance. But compared to before, his face is a lot paler, as if his cultivation has been overconsumed. He steps forward and helps Bodhidharma up from the ground with his eyes wide open. She reached out her hand and covered his eyes, which were filled with everlasting regret. Even the bloodstains are wiped clean. In this way, it looks like Bodhidharma's injuries were too heavy and he died before he could be saved. And looks at the final result with satisfaction. He changes into a weeping and tired face, intending to remove the enchantment. But at this moment, a jade stone on his waist gently vibrates. And reaches out and gently touches the jade stone. A man's figure appears in the void. If Mayan and the others were here at this time, they would definitely recognize this man in a robe and with a pale face. That is, the Demon Emperor's priest, Zhongli sees and immediately bows. Master, everything at the heavenly enchantment banquet went as you expected. Then smiled and faintly said, Is there something unexpected about what you said? Zhongli bows and nods. Di Mingju didn't participate in the heavenly enchantment banquet to discuss anything with Jun Shirtian, but he really took a fancy to the demon princess. Zen's eyes slightly narrow. That Shen musician remnant? Interesting. Zhongli asks again. Master, Di Mingju is interested in the demon princess. Do we still follow the original plan? I'm afraid there will be variables. The corner of Idlin's mouth hooked up. Of course we'll follow the original plan. Di Mingju was interested in Jun Mayan, but in the end, Jun Mayan and Han Jiaming had a physical relationship. Isn't this even more interesting? Zhong Li's face turned pale. It was interesting, but Han Jiaming would obviously become cannon fodder. However, it was clear that as long as it was his master's order, there was no room for rejection. If he obediently carried out the mission, he might die. However, if they dared to disobey orders, they would definitely suffer a fate 10,000 times worse than death. After this heavenly enchantment banquet, I want the demons and spirit cultivators to fight to the death. Yes, Master. Debi Temple was located in the far west. Jing Yuan had to teleport a few times to return to Debi Temple in a short amount of time. Looking at the dilapidated walls of Debi Temple, Jing Yuan felt a buzz in his head, almost unable to breathe. His premonition came true. Something had happened to Defying Temple. But when he saw that eldest martial brother Shan Hui was still alive and that martial uncle and was treating his master in the hall, Jing Yuan heaved a sigh of relief. Senior brother, who was it that was able to injure you and master? Chapter 4293. Luo Yunxiao, it's Luo Yunxiao. When Shan Hui says these 3 words, he grits his teeth, wishing he could tear him to pieces. Luo Yunxiao? Jing Yuan felt that the name sounded familiar to him. When he comes to, he suddenly widens his eyes. Luo Yunxiao? Isn't that Yuma's martial uncle? On the floating island, he saw through Jun Mayan's identity as a Shin musician. Luo Yunxiao gave him a warning and challenged him. And he didn't want to hurt Yuma, so he pushed the boat with the current. The 2 of them fought to a draw, as if nothing had happened. Senior brother, is it a mistake? Why would Luo Yunxiao attack Defying Temple? These 2 parties were clearly unrelated to each other. Could it be to hide Jun Mayan's identity as a Shin musician? Shan Hui suddenly turns his head and stares at him. Jing Yuan, how do you know about Luo Yunxiao? There are not many people in Defying Temple who know about the Red Dust robbery. In addition to Bodhidharma, Si-en, Shan Hui and Wu Che, there is only Shan Hui's eldest disciple Xianzhen and a few highly respected elders of Defying Temple. Jing Yuan doesn't know about the Red Dust robbery, so it's reasonable to say that he doesn't know Luo Yunxiao. Jing Yuan subconsciously avoids Shan Hui's gaze and whispers, I met Luo Yunxiao on the floating island. After a pause, he can't help but say, I don't think this person is a cruel killer. Why, Jing Yuan, are you speaking up for that devil? Shan Hui slaps the table and almost jumps up. But because his legs are destroyed, he can't recover and can only fall down. Jing Yuan reaches out to help him up, but Shan Hui pushes his hand away and says sternly, Jing Yuan, look at Defying Temple, what has become of it now? Master's life is uncertain, so many monks have lost their souls, Defying Temple is in ruins, and you still want to protect such a devil? Brother, I'm not. Amitba, Uncle Master Jing Yuan, you may not know this, but the reason why the devil attacked Defying Temple was to take away our temple's treasure, the resurrection lamp. The young novice monk serving Shan Hui could not help but say, Luo Yunxiao has brought many devils with him. They kill people and destroy houses on sight. It's not just Defying Temple that has been massacred. The innocent believers in Mercy City have also been massacred. Jing Yuan's pupils constricted. Before he could ask, he heard Shan Hui say in a hoarse voice, Jing Yuan, do you still remember the second shitty who treated you like his own little brother? Wu Che also died at the hands of Luo Yunxiao. Now, even the only hope of reviving Wu Che, the soul revival lamp, has been snatched away by that demon. Yet, you are saying that he is not a murderer? Jing Yuan, are you worthy of your second senior brother? Jing Yuan felt his chest violently tremble and his mind was buzzing. After a long time, he said in a hoarse voice, why did Luo Yunxiao want to kill second senior brother? How did he kill second senior brother? He suddenly raised his head. His usually gentle and shy handsome face was now filled with a bone-piercing killing intent. His clear eyes also turned blood red in an instant. Eldest senior brother, where has second senior brother been all these years? What has he been doing? Does it have anything to do with Luo Yunxiao? What are you hiding from me? Shan Hui met Jing Yuan's blood-red eyes and an indescribable fear emerged from the bottom of his heart. But soon, a trace of anger flashed across his eyes and he said sternly, Jing Yuan, is this the attitude you should have when talking to your senior brother? Chapter 4294. At this moment, the closed door was suddenly opened with a bang. Shan Hui and Jing Yuan immediately stopped quarreling. Master! Uncle Sid, then how is Master? However, when they rushed into the hall, they saw Bodhidharma lying on the ground with a pale face and no breath of life. Their bodies swayed, almost unable to stand. Master! Jing Yuan jumped up and helped Bodhidharma up. Feeling his master's cold body, he only felt that the blood in his body seemed to have lost its temperature. He raised his trembling hand and pressed it on Bodhidharma's neck. The coldness and deathly stillness caused Jing Yuan's eyes, which had just shed their crimson red, to suddenly burn like a raging fire. "Master, master! Why is it like this?" Shan Hui screamed. "Uncle, didn't you say that master still has a chance to live?" Not far away, Ivan's face was pale, and the corners of his mouth were stained with blood. His face was full of sadness and guilt. He put his palms together and said hoarsely, "I'm incompetent and couldn't save senior brother. I didn't expect that Luo Yunxiao would be so vicious. She left a ball of dark holy flame in senior brother's sea of consciousness. I was caught off guard and was injured by the dark holy flame. I could no longer protect senior brother's divine soul. Amitba, I was too careless and caused senior brother's death." Sivan said. Turbid tears rolled down his eyes. His body swayed slightly, and he could no longer hold on and fainted. "Ah! Luo Yunxiao, Luo Yunxiao. Today, I will make you pay with blood." In Shan Hui's heart-wrenching roar, Jing Yuan tightly held his master's cold body in his arms and slowly closed his eyes. Hot tears flowed down from his eyes, but they slowly turned cold. When he opened his eyes again, only cold red killing intent was left. Under the abyss. Fourth senior sister, fourth senior sister. Did you hear what I said? Ling Yuma came back to her senses and met Ling Yusheng's concerned eyes. She immediately smiled. "Sorry, I was distracted just now." "What are you talking about?" Yun Ruhen reached out and patted her shoulder gently. "Yuma, are you worried about Master Jing Yuan?" Leng Yuma's fingertips gently touched the hilt of the red lotus soul-stealing blade. Then, with a carefree smile on his face, he stretched his arms and said, "I'm a little worried, but after thinking about it, worrying won't help. What is the little monk's cultivation? What is my cultivation? Do I have the right to worry about him? Come, let's guess the true appearance of this demon princess. Is she beautiful or ugly? By the way, eldest senior brother, you've been in the devil race for so many days. Have you seen the princess? What does she look like? I heard that the princess of the demon race and junior martial uncle were once engaged, but now they're going to hold a martial competition to find a spouse. Wasn't it enough for her to have a peerless man like youngest martial uncle? Are you going to hug them on both sides?" Yun Ruhen rubbed her forehead, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. "You'll know what the demon princess looks like when you enter the palace tomorrow." He chuckled softly and revealed a meaningful expression. "I promise that you will be shocked when the time comes. Is it that ugly? So ugly that it can't be seen?" Third senior brother, what do you think? Leng Yuma suppressed the anxiety in her heart and looked at Chu Moli with great interest. "Do you think the demon princess is beautiful or ugly? Is she hugging them on both sides and enjoying the fruits of others' labor? Or is she blind?" Chapter 4295. Chu Moli looks up at them, his eyes sweeping over Yun Ruhen. He lowers his eyes, twirls the jade ring in his hand, and says in a low voice, "I hope that you won't swallow back your words later." "Third brother, what did you say?" "Hey, third brother, are you going to get it? Do you want us to push you?" Chu Moli doesn't turn around and says warmly, "No need, the minister will be waiting for me outside." Why do I feel that third brother has been very mysterious since coming to the demon palace? I don't know what he's planning. By the way, where's little sister? I haven't seen her for a long time. Cough, do you still need to ask? She must have gone to meet Instructor Mo in private. In the side hall of the demon palace, Ing Mei and Han Yi kneel in front of Mayan, bowing. "Greetings, Miss June." Mayan promptly steps forward to help Ing Mei up. The rims of Ing Mei's eyes are a little red, and her usually cold voice is trembling with excitement. "Miss June, it's great that you're safe and sound. Many things have happened these days, June Shang." Mayan touches her head, saying softly, "Don't worry, tell me slowly what happened." Han Yi, who is still kneeling on the ground, looks at them with hidden bitterness. "Miss June, little shadow, I'm still kneeling on the ground?" The difference in treatment is too big. Little Shadow's knees haven't touched the ground when Miss June pulls him up. What about him? He's been kneeling here for a long time, and no one came to look at him? It's like a yellow cabbage field, too miserable. Mei hears his words and glares at him in disgust. What else do you want? Let Miss June help you up? Aren't you afraid that June Shang will chop off your claws? Or you'll be locked up in the purgatory pool for a year and a half. Han Yi, there's no justice. Little Shadow, whose lover are you? Is this how you describe your husband? After watching Han Yi play around for a while, the three immediately get to the point. Di Mingju lost his memory? Mei nods. June Shang rushed to the floating island to save Miss June, and we followed him to look for you, but we couldn't find any trace of you. But suddenly, June Shang returned to the polar domain and fell into a coma. When he woke up again, he couldn't remember anything. Just like 7 years ago. Mu Yen stares blankly. 7 years ago? What's 7 years ago? Just as Mei is about to speak, Han Yi immediately pulls her sleeve and snatches her words. Miss June, you don't know, but while June Shang was unconscious, a woman came out to impersonate you. Mu Yen frowns, and sure enough, her attention is drawn over. Impersonate me? Yes, she calls herself June Mayan. Whether it's her appearance or her voice, it's almost exactly the same as yours. She also said that she lost her memory, and we were almost fooled. Fortunately, Little Shadow was alert and was suspicious of the imposter from the beginning. Mu Yen raises her eyebrows. Why don't you suspect that I'm a fake and she's the real one? Hee hee, is there still a need to ask? Han Yi says, beaming, just look at June Shang's attitude and you'll know. Do you know what June Shang's first words were when he woke up and saw that imposter? Cough cough. Han Yi clears his throat and puts on a stern face. Imitating Di Mingju, he coldly says, Ben Jun lost his memory, not that he's stupid. Is this kind of thing fit to be Ben Jun's fiancé? Do you think that Ben Jun is blind? Ha! You didn't see the expression on that imposter's face at that time. Chapter 4296. Mu Yen stares blankly, then an indescribable sweetness and joy wells up in her heart. No wonder when she met little Mo Ju in the Tianguang ruins, it was as if he didn't know her. Later, he really took Yiliang Chen as a man, and even threatened her not to marry the demon princess. It turns out that he lost his memory. But even if he lost his memory, this man would never mistake her at first glance. Even if he knew that Yiliang Chen was a man, he still chased him down the abyss without hesitation. Han Yi suddenly lowers his voice and says, Miss June, please believe me, June Shang might forget you once, twice, or even thrice, but he has no other choice. The feelings he has for you in his heart will never change. Mu Yan's fingers lightly grasp the void spirit ring, squeezing it tightly. Tell me, what's the matter with the god-punishing curse hidden inside Di Mingju's body? Han Yi is about to answer when he hears the voice of a demon attendant outside the room. Your Highness, the demon lord asks you to come over as soon as possible. There's a bit of anxiety in the voice. Mu Yen knits her brows. I know. Her Highness. Who is Her Highness? Mu Yen hooks up the corner of her lips. She raises a finger towards the industry whose eyeballs are about to pop out of their sockets, and makes a shushing gesture. Don't tell someone in advance. My biological father had reincarnated and went through a calamity. His real name is Jun Shirtion. Han Yi sucks in a mouthful of cold air. Even after Mu Yen has left, he still hasn't reacted. Little Shadow, quick, pinch me. Miss June, what did she just say? She said that her biological father is called Jun Shirtion? God, isn't Jun Shirtion the demon lord of the demon race? So Miss June is the demon princess that was rejected by the polar domain in every possible way, that Jun Shang swore that he wouldn't marry even if he was beaten to death. Han Ye's legs soften, and he very much wants to faint. No. He's fainting just like their Jun Shang. At that time, the polar domain rejected the marriage, and it was spread to the entire Xiuxian continent, thoroughly offending the demon race. Now, he wants to marry the precious daughter that he found with great difficulty from the hands of the demon lord. Isn't this a long and arduous road? Han Yi can't help but shed tears of sympathy for his Jun Shang. Mu Yan walked out of the Xiao Yao sect's sleeping quarters and followed the demon servant to Jun Shirtian's palace. The heavenly charm banquet would last for 2 days and 2 nights. Of course, during this period, there would be more than just a competition for the position of the princess's son-in-law. The traditional purpose of the heavenly enchantment banquet of the demon race was to display the might and power of the demon race to all spirit cultivators. After the betrothal contest ended, the blood demon army marched into the arena. As the lingering and melodious singing of the succubus became as impassioned as a mighty army, the atmosphere in the hall also changed abruptly. As soon as the blood demon army appeared, the faces of the spirit cultivators who had looked down on the demon race turned pale. They were filled with fear and didn't dare to speak nonsense anymore. At the same time, they were extremely fearful and envious of the demon race's current strength. But right now, Mu Yan's mind is mostly occupied by Di Mingju. Why did he lose his memory? What was the god-killing curse? She wanted to ask third senior brother about it after everything was over. Ding! All of a sudden, something bumped into his hand. It happened to hit the void spirit ring, giving off a crisp sound. Mu Yan looked down, only to find that a jade ring had broken into 2 halves, falling at her feet. How could a jade ring suddenly fly over here? Chapter 4297. How could a piece of jade suddenly fly in here? While she was puzzled, she suddenly heard a vague and weak voice. Little guy, take me to my disciple, I will give you the best elixir in the world. How about it? Mu Yan was startled, her body suddenly became alert. That was because the voice came directly from her void spirit ring and entered her head. Who? The demon servant who was leading the way turned around and quickly asked, Princess, what's wrong? Just as Mu Yan was about to speak, she heard the old man raise his voice with great difficulty. Don't look, this is the doppelganger technique. I transferred my divine soul from that piece of jade to your ring. Boy, I'm telling you, as long as you take me to my precious disciple, I promise I won't treat you badly. It's all that bastard Di Mingju's fault. He's not willing to take me to find my treasured disciple. There are so few people with godly power in this place, it wasn't easy for me to find you. Otherwise, how could I, the grand sacred ancestor of medicine, be in such a difficult situation? Mu Yan's breath stagnated. She swallowed back the question she wanted to ask. She shook her head at the demon servant who was leading the way and said, Nothing, let's go. When the demon servant turned around, she used her divine sense to transmit her voice. Little Gio. Master? Ugh, are you talking to me? No, that's impossible. Only my precious disciple will call me Little Gio Master. That bastard Di Mingju, it's all his fault. My divine soul is so weak that I have auditory hallucinations. This won't do. I need to rest for a while. Once I'm fully recovered, you can bring me to find my precious disciple. Listening to the voice in her mind gradually disappear, Mu Yan doesn't know whether to laugh or cry. Little Gio's master is as lively as ever. But when she thought of how Han Chujio went through so much trouble to find her, and even used the doppelganger technique, her heart was filled with warmth. Your Highness, the demon marshal is waiting for you inside. Please go in. The demon servant opened the door and stood outside the door. Mu Yan walked into Jun Shirtian's room, only to find that it was dark, and there was a faint sound of suppressed breathing. She frowned and was about to use her divine sense to explore the situation in the room. However, at this moment, there was a loud bang behind him. The door closed behind him. Mu Yan's heart shudders, and she promptly turns around to open the door. However, the door did not budge. Swish. The sword of 7 absolutes was unsheathed, overflowing with cold light, and directly chopped at the wooden door. However, even though it was just an ordinary wooden door, it was not damaged at all. On the contrary, the surroundings of the house emitted a faint blue light, and within the blue light, golden runes crisscrossed. Mayan's heart suddenly sinks. Had she fallen into someone's trap? That devil servant wasn't sent by Jun Shirtian? What did the person who lured her here want? Muyan's nerves were all tense. She held the 7 Absolute sword in her hand and spread her divine sense around. However, what shocked her was, there seemed to be some sort of special confinement in this room. Her divine sense spread out from her body, but it was like a clay ox entering the sea, instantly disappearing into the air. Who's there? At the same time, a slightly hoarse male voice rang out from the darkness. Then, a figure staggered towards her. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.